Look not upon the face of the outcast witch. Nah, you can look, it's okay. My name is Un, and this is I Played a Thing, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, New Game Plus Abridged. And with me as always is Salad, today wearing the Hexer set, as owned by Falcon the Outcast, and I am going to keep on wearing that witch's hat because I do like that extra attunement slot, and it looks kinda cool. We're going to be headed toward the Doors of Pharos, first of all, today, and there's really nothing new in the Doors of Pharos themselves. So what we are going to do is pretty much head on straight to the Royal Rat Authority, or Rat King's Test if you prefer. And according to my notes, it should be most vulnerable to fire, so we're going to make good use of our pyromancy. Also, by the time you see this, it should be the second, and I should have gotten older again. You would think I'm nearly 40, I would have learned better by now, but we learn nothing. We Learn Nothing is an excellent book by Tim Kreider, by the way. I wholeheartedly recommend it. And that's interesting. I did not realize my lock-on distance was actually a little farther than the functional range of the Dark Orb. Well, it is nice to see that we can one-shot the rats here with Dark Orb, but it's a little bit slow and not quite enough to get me hit with the toxic status there, which is not a good start, and that's not a good finish. I think we're going to need another approach. Alright. This time I have an idea. We're going to try out Darkstorm, which is a hex I have not previously experimented with, but which I have some hopes for. It makes little dark entities swirl around you, and because they swirl around me, I am thinking they might just hold off the rats here. Oh, started a little early, but at least that gives you a preview of how the spell works. I understand it can also be useful against bosses that don't move around a whole lot, but I have not tried it for that yet. This is actually my first experiment with it, and it worked even better against the little rats than I expected. So now we can get started on the authority himself. And I have to train myself to watch out for that second claw swipe while staying out of range. Yep, definitely gonna need to learn that. I'm used to being able to walk in with my heavy weapon and just one-shot the rats, and then just kind of circle around the authority, take shots at him from the side or from below when I can, but when we have to have the space and the time to pop off spells against him, that's not going to work quite as well, so I'm kind of learning my new strategy as I go here. Let's see. Yeah, Great Combustion's probably a little too risky here, but he's a big target. The Firestorm family might prove effective. Not sure about his Dark Defense, so we're gonna pass on Outcry and just take Fire Tempest. I am really happy with how well that works out. Wasn't sure if it would let the little rats through, if they were fast enough to slip through the orbiting little humanity phantom type things, but no. It seems quite effective at stopping them all cold. I'm still having a little bit of difficulty correctly estimating the range of that second big claw swipe, but, well, yep, definitely need to watch my range on that. I mean, he's a rat. You wouldn't think he'd have long arms, but he is put together rather strangely for a rat. Very kind of dog-shaped, so, well, you do what you gotta do. But I've got a good feeling about this time. Yep, still well pleased with how that works. And until we ran out of them, the Great Fireball approach did seem to be doing okay. And I would like to dodge that big running head charge, but its hitbox is a little weird, so you have to try and dodge it. There's that range underestimation again. As I was saying, you have to try and dodge it at the last possible moment so you don't get caught by an edge of its hitbox. And usually I end up dodging just a beat too slow and taking it on the shield instead. Well, taking it on the shield will break your guard, but it's certainly preferable to taking it to the face. And he doesn't tend to follow up that attack real quick, so getting my guard broken, not a huge deal. Yep, still don't have that timing quite right. Now mind the range. Okay, actually got back far enough that time. We're improving. I've never claimed to be a particularly quick study, but I learn eventually, I swear. Of course, I'm still learning the timing for that charge. It'd be nice if I could avoid that a little more consistently with the dodge roll and not have to recover my stamina and recover from my shield stagger, but I'm staying alive, and that's really job number one here. Ah, still late. There we go, that's how it's done. Ah, and so much for my last great fireball. Well, at least we got another dodge off, that's satisfying. Now what I want to try and do is kind of get right under him, and then set off my Fire Tempest. He ends up not being super cooperative about that, and I end up jumping the gun a little bit from time to time. Took a hit there too, but the damage was really nice. I'm pretty well pleased with that. Dodge, yes, very good. Good job, me. Okay, think I'm finally getting the hang of that. Oh, that would have been a really great time for my Tempest to go off, but he had enough time to do the back jump and punish me a little bit. Fortunately, although his New Game Plus damage is pretty damn good, he's not one-shotting me or anything, so we have time to heal. Oh yeah, that's some pretty sweet damage. Oh, is he in his staggery phase now? No, he still seems to be doing okay, so let's see if we can hit him with one more Tempest and get him into that staggery phase. And then his attacks become a little easier to deal with because, of course, they're much slower and clumsier. Ah, that back jump again. He keeps punishing me for that. Oh, but yes, he is definitely in his second phase now. Gonna have a little bit of the gastric distress. And will I have time to flame weapon? No, I decide not to chance that. Even if he's strong against dark, I think we'll be okay, and whoa! That is actually much better damage than I was anticipating. If I had known that, I would have been using more hexes against him from the word go. Well, nevertheless, that was actually a really fun fight with the magic approach. Authority disrespected. Had a little trouble there, but slowly felt him out, slowly got the hang of it, and slowly pulled out the victory. Good time. I like those fights that are a little bit difficult, but that they're just fun to figure out. Artorias was probably the #1 example of that in a Souls game for me, although I have not yet played Bloodborne. I understand that has some pretty outstanding ones as well. And we'll continue to level up our intellectual attack stats. And next we're going to move on to the army camp at the top of the Doors of Pharos. And you may recall there were some little pigs here back in our original run. Well, now in New Game Plus we've got some pigs that are not so little at all. And the Dark Orb does not seem to be doing a real impressive job on them. I mean, 377 is not a small amount of damage by any means, to be fair, but they got pretty good sacks of hit points there. And hitting them with a projectile does not slow them down in the least. I'm actually probably making this a little harder than it needs to be, because if I could attack faster with my S-Stock, I'd probably be doing a little better, but I'm a mage this time around, and I want to try and do as many things magic style as I can, and, well, sometimes I suffer for it. Let's try that again. This time we had so much success with it against the rats. Let's see how the Dark Storm fares against the big old swine here. Well, they're not very fast, but they are fast enough to punish me for it, but I do like the damage. I do appreciate that damage. They're kind enough to be sufficiently slow to give me a good heal opportunity, so it's all good. By the way, you know those 3 tiny pigs in the very beginning by the mansion in Majula? I've never actually bothered to test it out, but I understand if you keep killing them and respawning them, eventually they'll turn into normal-sized pigs, and then finally into one of these. Just one, though. Alright, the Dark Orb, again, is not doing spectacular relative to their overall amount of hit points, but they don't have so many hit points left, so we can finish them off. And the good news is, Pumbaa and Pumbaa drop some Divine Blessings for us. Not a bad drop at all. Now we have the biggest surprise of New Game Plus in Dark Souls 2, an early appearance by the Duke's dear Freya. Yep, she did not do this, if you recall, in the initial run through the game, but here she does show up early. She has a different moveset, and she cannot summon her minion spiders, but she has a couple more tricks with her legs and throwing her body around. It is not possible to completely kill her here. At least I'm fairly certain no one's ever been able to do it. There's just not enough time. And I think even if you burst her down really fast, she'll leave early. But in any case, you just have a little time to fight here, and then her life bar will disappear and she will retreat into the gorge. But the neat thing is, the damage you do to her during this early appearance will persist into the actual boss fight. So when I get to her, she will be missing the health that I just took off. So that's cool. Now then, it is time for Lol Boss. And there's really no need to bring Bernhard along for this sub-pinwheel encounter, but, well, it's always nice to have an angry Scotsman at your side. I actually get into a little trouble here just by fucking around and forgetting that the Magus himself has a AoE blast similar to Wrath of God. But I am really just absolutely not willing to have a Prowling Magus and Congregation death on my permanent record, so we'll step back, get the heal, and I'm getting myself in trouble here because I want to play around with Darkstorm some more, and once I actually get in and get it out safely, it's pretty damn effective. I am well pleased with that once again. Also, I like the way it knocks the Magus on his ass. Thump. Good times. Let's see if I can get in one more. Nope, we're just gonna finish them off with the S-Stock. That'll be just fine. Whoa, nice kill steal there, Bernard. Well, that was a little messier than it should be, but at the end of the day, it's a Prowling Magus fight. What do you want out of life? And that gives us enough for another level, so we will make our usual pit stop. Little faith, if you please, Shanalot. We gotta have faith. Now then, it's time for Pate vs. Creighton, Round 2. Now, last time we got into Creighton's corner and assisted him in taking down Pate. This time, we're going to assist Pate and turn our backs on Creighton. This fight was a little slow and clumsy because I kept getting hit with backswing, and I wanted to make sure I hit the right target, so we'll just skip through it real quick like, and there we go.
What misunderstanding could have caused this? Well, thank you. I owe you my life. My little pied-à-terre lies beyond here. You'll find some of my treasures there. Help yourself to those that suit you. Here, use this key. Be cautious on your travels.
His little pied-à-terre. Aren't you a classy motherfucker, Pate? And he gives us exactly the same Seldora Den key as we got from Creighton. This, by the way, here is a little path that I never found before. If I'm not mistaken in my counting, this is my 5th time through the game, and I never, ever went along this little edge here and found this additional small area in Seldora. That's a lovely thing about Souls games. They almost always have something new to teach. I was just screwing around in here, wondering what was about. Yeah, I definitely never found this lever before. For a moment I was looking around, wondering what exactly it did. Then I saw this little shelf move down. So that's where the Southern Ritual Band +1 is. Well, how about that? A brand new discovery caught on camera. Now then, we're going to pay a visit to our friend Ornifex and see what we could have done with the old witch's soul, and what we can do with the old king's soul. Now, you may recall we traded the old witch's soul for flame weapon, but we could have spent it on, where is it? The Chaos Blade. A katana of unknown origin. Damage to foes also damages its owner. The peculiar pattern upon the blade suggests the sinister nature of this cursed blade. It is an alluring vortex and a lonely soul. High dex requirement and high dex scaling. It's very beloved in PvP, as I've mentioned before. I don't entirely know why, so I welcome your insights on that if you're more of a PvPer than I am. Moving along, we can trade the Old King's Soul for the Dragonslayer Greatbow, a greatbow said to be used to down ancient dragons flying high above the clouds, extremely large for a mere bow, and more destructive than any ranged weapon imaginable. Shooting this bow first requires the grounding of its stabilizing anchor, which takes time and leaves the shooter vulnerable, also requires great arrows. And this, on the other hand, has a big old strength requirement and very good strength scaling, so if you're beefy and you just want to shoot some big-ass lance-sized arrows at some things, it's a good option. Now then, here is Pate's little pied-à-terre, as he put it. Exactly the same place that Creighton used for a hideout if we were to have helped him. So, yeah, which one you support ultimately changes absolutely nothing. Seldora key works, same as it did before. We can find a second set of engraved gauntlets here, which I have no particular use for, but again, a very handy item that I always wear pretty much all the time.
Ooh, that'll leave a nice scar.
And the usual trap. I like his little snicker at the end there. Not a big old evil laugh, just a little snort, and that seems, thank you message. That seems pretty in character for Pate. Classy motherfucker that he is. Now then, we've got the standard Scholar edition of the Duke's Dear Freya entourage. Let's kill some spiders. Now this actually surprised me a bit. I was one-shotting the regular enemy spiders out in the level with Dark Orb, so I expected that would happen here, but apparently Freya's minion spiders are a little bit tougher. Big fucking laser. As I was saying, apparently the ones that Freya summons are a little tougher, so it was taking me a Dark Orb and then a little more damage besides. However, we're now going to be switching over to Pyro, because just like the Authorita, Freya's primary weakness is fire. Fortunately, I've got plenty of folks to distract her while I stand back and chuck fireballs. And as always, combustion makes me feel good, so we're gonna sneak up right into her face and pop off some of these GCs. I am being very cautious about this because she can change which head is active at pretty much any time, and her big mandibular melee strikes are really, really deadly with New Game Plus damage. Yeah, that is exactly what I don't want to get hit by. Thankfully, I was able to take it on the shield when I couldn't avoid it entirely. And my psychotic friends over there are really putting some holes in her. I'm fairly impressed with the amount of damage they've been able to inflict because, just like any Souls game, NPCs do not tend to be super aggressive in this. But they're getting hits. So then we will finish it off with a couple of doses of Flame Weapon. And that will overall be a pretty damn painless experience. Thanks, guys. And as usual for one of the well-endowed, in addition to the soul of the Duke's dear Freya, this time we get one of the souls of the old lords of Lordran. In this case, it is the old Pale Drake soul, which of course belongs to Seath. And as usual, we actually have to go to the dragon here in order to actually embrace the Great Soul and leave the room. Now, just like the other souls of the Ineffable, there's not much in the actual item description of the Pale Drake soul, but I brought it here just for the hell of it. Moving onward, we're going to pay another visit to our dear friend Ornifex, and we'll see what we could trade this for here. The Moonlight Greatsword. The blade of this greatsword shines like the brilliant rays of the moon. In the oldest legends, rarely spoken of today, it is said that the sword was born of a great white being. Seath again. The strong attack unleashes its strength, launching a wave of moonlight. And this is what Benart thinks he has. Unfortunately, what he has is a fake, and this is how you get the real one. Now that actually scales with magic damage, which means intelligence, so that wouldn't be a terrible pick for us, but I want what Strayed has. Because he has a trade for the Pale Drake Soul as well, and it's what I want to go with this time. There we go, Crystal Soul Spear. Soul Spear sharpened through crystallization. Pierces enemies, causing heavy damage. Superior to the most finely sharpened weapons, when wielded precisely, it can take down several enemies at once. And it has a tremendous requirement in intelligence, which we don't actually have yet, but we're not that far from it, so we can always just spend some Simpleton Spice and lower the requirement for it, which I will probably do later off screen. Anyway, that's pretty much the most powerful standard projectile type of magic in the game, I believe. And we've got some money to spare, so we'll continue to increase our attack stats and ultimately make our Simpleton Spice not have to work quite so hard. And improve our attack damage as well, of course. Now, we don't really need another of those spells that Soul Shower that Strayed will trade for Nika's soul, so we might as well nom nom on that. And will that put us up the level threshold? Yes, it will. Another shot of the faithful stuff, please. Thank you, ma'am. So that's 3 old ones down and just 1 more to go, and that means heading down the Majula communal toilet and making our way to the gutter. And when I head across the bridge here, you will see a couple of new arrivals for New Game Plus. Wasn't sure exactly what their spawn point was, so I was kind of trying to tease them out here, but no, we'll just make the jump, and I'm sure that'll get their attention. There they are. 2 Red Phantom NPCs. One of them is just a melee knight type of guy wearing the Faram set of armor, I believe, so I don't really know what his deal is, but the other one is a little more interesting. The cleric type lady down there who's chucking the sunlight spears at me. She has a pretty rough miracle set there, primarily Sunlight Spear, as I mentioned, the most powerful of the Lightning Spear school. And that other thing she's using there is actually Blinding Bolt, which is the miracle that you can get by trading Gwyn's soul to Strayed, whereas I took the Dragonslayer Greatbow instead. And you can probably see why I'm not that high on Blinding Bolt as an attack miracle. It is really, really random. Really don't have any ability to aim it whatsoever. Anyhow, I am cheaping these 2 out because I admit I'm a total wimp about going down there and fighting them with the exploding undead citizens also waiting to rush me from the tunnel. So yeah, we're cheaping this out. Anyway, the reason I say that the the priestess there is more interesting is the armor set she was wearing, which she has dropped. So when I finish this guy off, we'll go down there and pick that up, and yeah, we'll see something interesting indeed about her equipment. For now, I'm just going to try and take this guy out from the sniper's perch here, which is in one way simpler because he has no way of hitting us. Can't go chucking highest end lightning spears with AoE at us. On the other hand, he likes to hide under the bridge, which can make the camera go slightly insane. Let's try the other side. Yup, there we go. Now this guy, there might be something special to him as far as, like, character he's meant to represent or something, or he's just supposed to be sort of her bodyguard or something, I don't know. We'll speed this up, but the Faram set doesn't say anything particularly interesting to me. If you have any idea if there's any lore implications, by all means, feel free to present your theories in the comments. At any rate, it is now as safe to go down there as it will ever be. I'm just going to try and bait the citizens into blowing themselves up rather than actually trying to... Oh, that one didn't work out so well. Contestant number 2. That's more like it. And he blew up his buddy, too. So that worked out quite nicely. Oh, that's the drop from the... whatchamacallit, the crystal lizard that I shot off the bridge. Well, the Faram Knight drops the soul of a great hero, so that at least is nice. But this is what I was saying was interesting about the priestess was her dingy set. Now you may recall that was what Anastasia of Astora wore in Dark Souls 1. So is this an echo of her? Is this sort of Anastasia's soul echoing down through the ages or even being reincarnated? I do not know. Or maybe it's another Firekeeper. Couldn't say. An unassuming dingy robe, although by now gray with soot and etc. etc. Oh, and they come pre-upgraded, which is nice. Now, somewhere around here is going to be the blood-stained skirt, which has a slightly different item description. If I can find that, that'll be nice. There we go. A close inspection reveals old dried blood. What tragedy could have befallen its original owner? Well, I remember a certain tragedy named Lautrec. Anyway, it is onto the gutter, and... We're not going to the gutter today. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for some Grody level shenanigans, but for now that will be quite enough. For Salad and Laddersmith Gilligan, this is your 38 Special, reminding you to hold on loosely and don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're gonna lose control. I Played a Thing has been brought to you today by such wonderful patrons as Justin Carpenter, Nolden, Zangamarth, Charlie Dunst, Anonymous Benefactor, John Madigan, Sanguine Games, Misha Van Doren, Craig Patterson, Frank Grizzy, Tim J., Lolo De Puzzlo, Joshua C. Ritchie, Jared C. Rice, Darren Chow, Sonic Rose, EX Potemkin, Alicia Goranson, Argyle Jelly, Mechasaurus, DG Jono, Doug Russell, August Fortnite, Patrick Bellinger, and the rest of the gang. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to Alicia Goranson, who has been helping me out with some job hunt stuff, which is very much appreciated. She is currently playing a thing called Clockwork Knight 2, and previously did Clockwork Knight 1, so very much worth seeing. And also, speaking of the Saturn, if you have not yet seen her run of Panzer Dragoon Saga, really can't recommend it enough. She did an absolutely fantastic job with an absolutely fantastic game. So I will put a link to her channel down in my video description there. As always, I would also like to extend a thank you to all watchers and to all commenters and subscribers. I am very glad to have you along, and until next time, I hope you have a lovely weekend and a very happy 4th of July. Take care.